right, so have we done transformations of trig functions before? Kind of a little bit. Okay, so hopefully this isn't too crazy. I think even if you haven't done before, it's not bad. So we're breaking it down. So do y'all remember, think back to like unit 2, when we did transformations of just functions in general. And you remember how we had the A, B, C, and D values? We're putting those on trig functions as well, okay? So we're just gonna do D today. So that only moves your midline. That's it. So it's just your vertical shifts up and down. That's all we're talking about today. Good? That's it. Okay? So, I'm pretty sure, right? Oh, I lied. We're also putting an A in there, but it's not bad. So the front side is just your D values, just a vertical shift up or down. So what we're gonna do first, we've got the graph of cosine. So we're gonna fill in this stuff about it. And then we're gonna compare it to cosine plus 4 and then cosine minus 3. So I'm gonna use different colors when we go graph that later, I think, but yeah. So if you're looking at our graph of cosine, that's the one that's already here. What is the max value? What's our min value? What's the amplitude? That's your, sorry, this is your A value, so it's whatever's in front of cosine. So 1. Is that okay? Can we see this? Not really. Would it be most helpful to see this part? Okay, so then your midline, that's your D value, so like plus 4 or minus 3. So in this case, it's 0. So that means your midline is at 0, right? The period, that's how long it takes to start repeating. Have we memorized that from yesterday? 2 pi? Yeah, you could put 360 because the graph is in degrees. I'm just used to saying 3 pi, sorry, or 2 pi. I was writing 360. Okay, your key points. We talked about that briefly yesterday. Do you remember how to find those? Period divided by 4, because you've got like the side, the top, the side, the bottom, right, of your Ferris wheel. So same idea. So like your max, your 0, your min, your 0. So whatever your period is divided by 4, so we'll do 2 pi divided by 4, or gosh, y'all want to do degrees or radians? Okay. 360 divided by 4, so we get 90, yeah? So that means every 90 degrees you're having a key point, right? Are we good with that? So that's either a max, a 0, or a min. Or like a midline instead of a 0. What is the range for cosine? Where does that come from? And what's the domain? Questions on any of that? We're pretty good? All right. So if we look at, do we want to graph first or fill in the table first? Okay, we'll graph first. So, I had a blue pen. What did I do with it? Thanks. So I'm going to do this one in pink just because I like colors, so I'm going to do that. So we're doing cosine of x plus 4. So based on what we've talked about before with transformations, what does that plus 4 tell you? Up 4, right? So your midline is now moving from 0 to 4. So the way that I like to do it is go up to 4 and put a dotted line there and just pretend like that's your x-axis now. So everything happens around that line instead of the x-axis, right? So instead of starting at like 1, we'd start at 5 because you just go up 1 and then to the 0 and then down 1 and then to 0, right? Are we all good with that? So you're still just graphing cosine like normal, but you're centered around 4 instead of 0. These lines are hard to see. Sorry. Yeah, because that should be like there and stuff. Do you have any questions on that? So we're all good? Okay. So once we've got it graphed, we can go fill in that table. It shouldn't be too bad from there. So, what is our max now? And what's your min? What's the amplitude still? And your midline? Period? Key points? And your range? And domain? Did we go through that too quickly? Are we okay? Any questions? All right, so then the next one, we're doing cosine of x minus 3. So what's going to happen? Your midline moves where? Down 3. So we're at negative 3. So I'm going to use blue this time. So, are we good with the graph there? Okay, so what's your max now? Negative 2, your min? Negative 4. Your amplitude? Your midline? Negative 3. The period? 360. Key points? Happen every 90. Your range? And domain? So we're all good? Is it coming back to us? Wonderful. Okay, so on the back we're going to graph 2 of these. So are we good to just graph this, or do we need to have the original and the new one? Just graph the new one? Okay, so you've got a bunch of formulas up top that like remind you how to find these things in case you can't remember. I think they're a little excessive, so yeah. Let's see, your A value is what? 4. Your D, or that midline, negative 1. Our B value this time is what? B is whatever's in front of X, so 1. Period? 360. Are we doing degrees or radians? Degrees? Okay. 360, and so then your key points happen every... Are we all good with that? Okay, so we're going to graph this. You've got some graphs on here. I think it's really hard to see the X and Y axis, so I'm just going to draw those in again. I feel like they should be much darker than they are, but oh well. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So on the x-axis, every line or every tick mark, I'm going to make it 90 degrees. Does that make sense? It's like 90, 180, 270, 360. I really don't want to keep going. Is it okay if I stop at 400? I don't want it. How far does it want us to go? Typically they want you to do 2 full cycles. cycles when you're graphing, so just make sure that you got enough for that. So if a period is 360, then we need to go 720, so we have 2 cycles. Does that make sense? I think on your homework and stuff, that's how far it asks you to go.
Is it okay if we just do 90 to 60 by 720, or do you want us to do it?
Whatever you want to do is fine. So I want to put our midline in first, and then we'll graph it from there. So where is the midline going to be? No. And this is cosine, so do we start at like 0 or whatever your amplitude is? Amplitude, which is what? 4? So 1, 2, 3, 4. I kind of kept going, but you don't have to. Are we alright with that? Do we have any questions or anything we're not sure about? Don't understand. So we're good on number 3? Or that one up there? Yeah? Alright, so do the next one. What's our amplitude this time? The amplitude is just 3. What does that negative out front tell us? So instead of starting at like a positive 1 or a positive 3 for amplitude, it would be below. Right? So just like flip it down. So we'll deal with that in a moment. What's our D or our midline? 2. Your B value is still 1, so that means your period is 360, and key points happen every 90. Are we okay with all that? Alright, so like we were saying before, because we got that negative out front, instead of starting, we gotta get our midline in there first. I'm getting ahead of myself. So that midline's at positive 2. So instead of starting 3 up from there, we would go down 3, right? Questions? So have we've done this before, right?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Great. Fantastic. So ready for homework?